right, well, today's lesson is one that pulls together so much of what we've learned throughout the year. And I think that by the end of class today, you're going to see your own mind a little different. But first, I want to show you something. I'm going to prove to you right now, in about 30 seconds, how easy it is to manipulate and influence a human mind, including yours. Now, those of you who may have heard this before, please be quiet. Don't give anything away. I'm going to tell you all a short story. And by the end of the story, I'm going to ask one question. If you can't answer it, or you get the answer wrong, then congratulations, you've been brainwashed. Are you ready? All right, here's our story. A man left home one day and started jogging. After a while, he turned left. He jogged a bit longer and turned left again. He jogged a bit more, turned left one more time, and jogged all the way home. When he got there, two masked men were waiting for him. Now, who were the masked men? No one knows the answer.
Huh?
Nobody?
There's no other information. Turn left.
I've given you all the information you need.
I wrote down 3 L's.
Jay?
I'm taking notes.
He's at the wrong house?
Yeah. No.
I successfully brainwashed all of you. Do you know the answer? No? All right.
Mr. Right's henchman.
Let me say it again.
Like Mr. Left's henchman?
A man left home one day and started jogging. After a while, he turned left. He jogged a bit longer and turned left again. He jogged a bit more, turned left one more time, jogged all the way home. And when he got there, two masked men were waiting for him.
Masked men.
The two masked men are the
Chinese
catcher
and
and the umpire.
Oh, now I know where I've heard this before.
He was playing baseball.
Oh, I feel stupid.
How many of you pictured in your mind's eye actual jogging? Like tennis shoes on pavement.
I mean, you would have said like sprinting
And
or
running out of
something.
block, right?
See,
Okay,
I bet
yeah.
your grandma's house because you literally only need to take 3 lefts to make a full circle back to her house.
All right. So how many of you pictured something shady or concerning when I mentioned the masked men?
I imagine 2 big, like 6 foot tall dudes
With their hand under their shirt, right? Yeah. That's what I pictured the first time I heard it too. But here's the thing. Did I lie to you?
No.
Did I put those images in your mind? Did
Yes.
I tell you to picture a street? To picture him
You
slipping on his
implied it.
shoes and going out for a morning
You
jog in
implied
the
it.
brisk air?
You implied it.
I implied it. I didn't say it was in a neighborhood. I didn't say the word street once. But every single one of you saw those details. And those details, your brain filled in on its own. Because your brain took the little bit of information that I gave it, like you said, I don't have enough information. Your brain took that little bit and reached into its library of past experiences and assumptions and automatically built a picture. And that picture felt real. It felt like that was what was happening in the story. And that's exactly what your mind does every single day with every situation you find yourself in. Our brains never have 100% of the information, and in every relationship, every goal, every setback, your brain is constantly filling in gaps, making assumptions, building the picture, based not on what's actually happening, but on everything that it's been trained to expect. If I can guide your thinking with one 30-second story, imagine what years of certain habits, certain influences, certain people, certain beliefs are doing to the picture your brain is building of your life. That's what today is about. The power of the mind. Most people assume their life is shaped primarily by their circumstances, by what happens to them, right? Maybe luck, maybe timing, maybe other people's decisions. And sure, circumstances matter. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's what God's word says, and what neuroscience is increasingly confirming. Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Okay, and that applies for us ladies too, of course. The Bible just talked about human as man. Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say, as a man acts, as a man hopes. It says, as he thinks. Not as he plans, not as he pretends, but as he thinks in his heart. That deep down, consistent, automatic level of thought that's running in the background all day long. That is what shapes a person's identity. That's what shapes you. We've touched on this in pieces all year. Today we're putting the whole picture together because there are laws, mental laws, that govern how the mind works, the same way physical laws govern how the universe works. And once you understand them, you stop being pushed around by them and you can start using them on purpose. So everyone knows how gravity works, right?
I'm fairly certain. I mean,
There you go. Right.
Me personally, I've been experiencing it for
But
15
she caught something nobody else
years.
did. I don't know how it works. I just know that it works. I don't actually fully understand the science behind gravity. I've watched tons of videos and read tons of articles about it. It does not make sense to me. I don't know how Newton or whoever actually figured everything out.
It's like
I
something
feel
to do
like he
with
just
mass.
kind of gave it a name.
He did.
It's
He's
like-
the one who named it, just like a lot of different things
Just
in
like a lot of
history.
the ancient dudes.
I saw a video making fun.
You know, Galileo wasn't the first one to determine that the Earth was revolved around the sun either. He was just the
He's
first
just
one
the
people
first
finally
one.
started listening to.
Yeah, he's just the first person who was persuasive.
Did you know that some people still think
The Earth was flat.
that Earth, no, not only that, I knew there were crazies out there that the Earth was the center of the universe? Some people
Earth
think,
is a spiral.
some people still think that the sun revolves around Earth.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
Well,
like,
yeah, you go work with like the moon
exactly,
and
I'm sitting here going with everything else we've learned since then that only makes sense because of geocentric model does not work anymore, sir. Anyway, side rant, I was appalled when I found that out. Anyway.
As a science nerd to a science nerd, I get that.
Right? All right, so regardless of if we understand quite how gravity works, we all understand that it works. And say I decide today I'm going to be a geocentric crazy and I'm going to believe that gravity is no longer working. What's going to happen? What's going to change?
Nothing.
You're not about to float away.
I'm not going to float away. Gravity's still going to work. It doesn't care if you believe in it or not, right? If you step off a ledge saying gravity doesn't exist, you're still going to fall. You don't get to opt out of gravity because you're having a bad hair day or because you didn't know the law existed, even if you literally was never taught about gravity. Many, many years people didn't understand it, but it still existed. It still held us down. It works regardless. Same with fire. You don't have to understand combustion to get your hand burnt. That law doesn't care whether you knew it. Same with nutrition. Your body doesn't wait for you to believe in biology before it starts breaking down what you eat. The process is always happening. Mental laws work the exact same way. They are always operating in your life, and they don't care if you believe in them or not. The question is never whether they're working, it's whether they're working for you or against you. Whether you are directing them or just being carried by them. So we're going to look specifically at 4 mental laws today. And I want you to notice something as we go through them. You've seen all of these at work in your own life already. We've talked about them throughout different lessons in all throughout the year. Today we're naming them clearly and putting them at your disposal. Law number 1 we're going to talk about today. I'm going to write this down so you guys can write it if you want. I hope I spelled that right. The law of expectation. The first law is the law of expectation. Similar to and works closely with the law of attraction, which we've covered pretty thoroughly throughout the class. A simple explanation for it is you tend to get what you expect to get. Right? We talked about this way back in lesson 3 when we were talking about limiting beliefs.
Oh,
What?
yeah. I said, I suppose.
Yeah. So does anybody remember the law of expectation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Only because I had
Only a little bit.
a 2-year prerequisite for this class.
All right. So it's basically how whatever you fully expect tends to become your reality more often than not. Well, now you have a lot more context for why that's true than you had back in lesson 3. Your brain, specifically the part of your brain that's called the reticular activating system, that RAS we talked about, is constantly filtering reality based on what it believes is important and what it believes is true. When you expect something, you believe it's true, and therefore your RAS starts scanning for evidence of it. And it usually finds what it's looking for. It's really good at that. So, I'm bad at this. Your brain will find every mistake, right? Every struggle, every moment of confusion, and it filters out all the moments of progress. And it says, that's not important because you're bad at this, remember? So you're right, expectation confirmed. You are bad at this. Congratulations. But when you think to yourself, this is going to go well, when you expect something to go well, your brain starts noticing the opportunities, noticing your competence, noticing your positive signals around you. And that expectation is confirmed again. Congratulations, it goes well. Same brain, same situation, completely different experience, just because the expectation is different. Now, the examples aren't always dramatic. It can be as simple as walking into a conversation expecting someone to be difficult, and then interpreting everything they say through that lens. Or expecting a whole day to go terrible, and then only really registering the things that confirm that. And here's the faith connection, and it's a good one. So what is faith at its core? Anyone know the biblical definition of faith?
Believing without seeing, that's like part of it.
There's a verse in the Bible that tells us the exact biblical definition of faith. Hebrews 11:1 tells us that it is a confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see. Faith is, by definition, expectation. That is exactly what it is. Expectation that God will move. Expectation that his promises are true. And expectation that our story isn't over yet. Your faith and your expectation are not separate things at all. When you trust God with your goals, your future, and even your hard seasons, you are training your expectation in the right direction. And your brain follows. And your faith strengthens through that process because it's all tied together. All right, the second law again, I hope I spelled that right. The law of concentration. Concentration, yeah. All right, even simpler. Whatever you focus on grows. We talked about this a lot with the RAS as well. Not physically, okay? I'm not saying that if you stare at your wallet, it'll fill up with money, as much as we all wish it would.
Oh, man.
But in terms of your awareness.
I wasted like 24 hours doing that.
In terms of your awareness, your energy, and ultimately your results, what you consistently concentrate on will expand. Remember the red and brown experiment from lesson 17?
Lesson 17.
I told you
That's
guys.
too far in the middle.
I told you guys to look for brown things around you. And then I had you close your eyes and tell me all the red things you saw. You guys remember that?
All I remembered was your water bottle.
But you couldn't name any of them.
I could.
Not because, except you had a tag. Not because the red things weren't there, but because your focus had been directed somewhere else. Same room, same objects, but completely different experience based on what you were concentrated on, where your attention went. That's the law of concentration in action. Your attention is like a spotlight. Whatever you shine it on gets bigger, clearer, and more real to your brain and that RAS. Whatever you don't shine it on fades away. So that RAS in action once again. If you spend most of your mental energy focused on your problems, your lack, your fears, your failures, those things will seem enormous. They will take up all the space in your mind and they will feel like the whole story. But when you redirect that spotlight, when you consistently focus on your goals, your progress, your purpose, what God is doing, your gratitude for all the good things in your life, those things grow in your awareness. And you notice more opportunities, more evidence that you're capable, more evidence that you are succeeding, and you notice more reasons to keep going. This is why visualization works, why affirmations help so much, and why gratitude practices work so well. Not because of positive thinking magic, okay, but because they are training your concentration. They're pointing that spotlight in a direction that actually serves you. You don't actually get what you want in this world. You get what you focus on consistently, okay? So the question worth asking yourself today is, where is most of my mental energy actually going? And is that where I want it to go? All right. This one I'm going to have to look at to spell. Correspondence. Oh, and my handwriting's getting messier and messier. All right, the law of correspondence. The idea here is that your inner world will reflect your outer world and vice versa. As within, so without. This one works in both directions, and both directions matter. Direction 1, internal shapes external. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your self-image, that's why we started the class on all of those things. All of that eventually shows up in your actions, your habits, your results, your relationships. We talked about it in depth just a couple weeks ago in our identity lesson. Who you believe you are determines what you do. Your inner world is always leaking out into your outer world. So if your inner world is full of doubt, doubt shows up in your actions. You'll hesitate. You'll quit early. You don't raise your hand. But if your inner world is full of purpose and clarity, that shows up too. You follow through. You push through resistance, and you show up even when it's hard. But the second direction is just as powerful. Your external shapes your internal. This one seems to surprise people. Your environment, which we talked about in our self-control lesson, your habits, your health, they all flow back and affect your mindset too. Think about this. How does a messy, chaotic room affect your ability to think clearly?
Feels crowded in the room.
Right. And therefore it'll end up feeling crowded in your brain. You try to sit down at a messy desk to work and you're like, right? Almost overwhelming. Even if all your work is just on this paper. Yeah. And it's amazing what happens when you clean the desk. All of a sudden,
I just did the same thing the other
things
day
get
to my
clearer.
desk.
Things get clearer. Right, and less chaotic. The external chaos has a tendency to leak inward and create mental fog. If you clean up the space, something settles in the mind too. What about exercise? How does exercise affect our mental state?
It makes you feel good.
It does.
It burns off stress hormones.
It does. Very good. We talked about it back in our stress lesson. Movement changes our actual brain chemistry. It reduces cortisol, releases endorphins, and improves your focus. So what you do with your body affects what's happening in your mind. And what about sleeping well versus sleeping poorly? Does that affect your self-control, your patience, your ability to make good decisions? Yeah. Dramatically. Because the body and mind are not separate systems. They work hand in hand. The practical takeaway here is that you have more leverage than you think. You can work on your mindset directly through your thoughts, your beliefs, affirmations, etc. But you can also work on it indirectly through your environment, through your sleep, through your movement, through your diet, through your habits. All of it feeds back in. You can build it from both directions. Your inner and outer worlds are always in conversation with each other. Make sure that they're saying the same things so that you can make use of the law of correspondence. So this one is known very well by both names. The law of reciprocity and the law of sowing and reaping. So I just went ahead and put also known as sowing and reaping. All right? This is the one that's probably most straightforward, one of my favorite mental laws that I've ever learned about. It's also one of the hardest to consistently live by, and remember that it's always affecting you. It's the law of reciprocity, also known as the law of sowing and reaping. Our secondary anchor verse today is directly related. A man reaps what he sows. Now, who in this verse thinks that it was only talking about harvest and gardening?
Oh, I thought that said Amon, like a name. Amon. Amon. Amon reaps what he sows.
Are you done?
Amon.
I read it that way too.
See, you need to put a bigger space in between the A and man. Or it looks like A man, go. Or Amon.
What is A-Man? A Pokemon?
No, it's
A-Man, go!
No, it's A
Choose
man.
you.
It's a superhero.
All right, is that
This
better?
the power of the A. No, see.
Okay.
I'm just Let's go
A
to
man
Make
six.
sure yourself is
reaps
deep
what
hole, buddy.
he sows.
Sounds like you're trying to describe the plot of Superboy.
All right, so God said it first. I don't think anyone looks at that and really truly thinks that it's only talking about corn or wheat, right? He didn't put any exceptions in there. This law is simply this. What you put out there comes back to you, one way or another. Not always immediately, and not always in the exact same form you sent it. Of course, we plant a seed, a kernel of corn, and it sprouts a whole stalk, and eventually an ear, right? But consistently, over time, you will reap what you sow. Effort in, results out. Not always right away, but eventually. The student who studies consistently, even when motivation is low, even when it's not glamorous, eventually reaps the grades, the knowledge, the confidence, and the opportunities. The student who only studies when they feel like it reaps inconsistency and usually disappointment. Kindness sown into relationships comes back as closeness, trust, and loyalty, while contempt and selfishness sown into relationships comes back as distance and conflict. Small, consistent actions toward a goal, sown over months and years, come back as a life that looks completely different from where you started. We've talked about compound growth. Compound growth is just the law of reciprocity, the act of sowing and reaping, with time added. And here's the thing that people often miss. This law applies to your thoughts too. Think about it, not just your actions. Because remember, what you consistently think about, what you show in your mind, or what you sow in your mind, it eventually shows up in your life. Because thoughts drive feelings, feelings drive actions, and actions drive outcomes. That chain always starts in the mind. And I want to be honest with you, this law can feel discouraging when you look back and realize that you've been sowing things maybe you don't want to reap. We've all done it. We've sown laziness in a season and reaped disappointing outcomes. We've sown bitterness and reaped isolation. We've sown distraction and reaped a year that went nowhere. But the beautiful thing about this law is that it also means you can start sowing differently today, right now. And the harvest will come. It won't be immediate. That's not how farming works, remember? But it will come because the law is always operating, no matter what. All right, so let's zoom out for a second and see the whole picture. As you can see, all these laws are not separate and unrelated. They're a system. They intertwine and overlap, and they build on each other. Your expectations will set the direction, right? Whatever you believe is possible, what you trust God for, what you've trained yourself to anticipate, that aims your life. But your concentration fuels it, right? Whatever you concentrate on consistently gets stronger in your mind and your awareness. You start noticing what you're looking for. And then your inner and outer worlds begin to correspond. As your thinking shifts, your actions shift. As your environment and habits align, your thinking shifts further. The inner and outer worlds start echoing each other. And then you reap what you sow. That consistent effort and directed focus, the renewed expectations, they compound into results. Thoughts shape focus, focus drives action, and action corresponds to identity, and it all comes back to the harvest. This is not a new system. Just because neuroscience is just now finally nailing it down and naming everything in the past 50 to 100 years,
This stuff's been around since like ancient Egypt.
God designed it. God wired it into our brain. It's woven into the fabric of how humans work. Every lesson we've done this year has been touching some part of this. And I want you guys to remember a verse that we've talked a lot about in this class, Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformed. Not improved, not tweaked around the edges, but transformed. And it starts not just with your behavior, not with your circumstances, but with your mind. God knew these laws long before neuroscience named them. He knew that a person's thinking is the root of everything else in his life. He knew that the battlefield is always in the mind first. He knew that what goes in shapes what comes out. That's why Philippians 4:8 is so specific. You remember that verse that goes on and on telling us what to think? It doesn't just say, think good thoughts. He gives you a whole list. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is pure, right? Not lovely, admirable. Think about these things. He's giving you a list to focus on. Literally handing it straight to you. He's telling you what to sow. And when your thoughts align with what God says is true about who he is, about who you are, about what's possible, you're not just doing a mindset exercise anymore. You are aligning with the creator of the universe. You are partnering with the one who established these laws in the first place. That's what it means to renew your mind. Not white-knuckling your way to better thinking, but consistently, intentionally choosing to fill your mind with truth and trusting that transformation will follow. All right, so what do we actually do with all of this? Because information without application is just interesting trivia. 4 things. And you've heard versions of these all throughout the class, but now you know the laws behind why they work. So I'm going to remind you of them now. Number 1 is to watch your thoughts. Notice the patterns, not to beat yourself up about them, but to become aware. You can't redirect a thought that you haven't noticed. When you catch a negative spiral, a fear loop, a doubt pattern, a complaint track playing on repeat, that awareness is the first step. So notice it. Number 2 is choose your focus. Once you notice where your attention is going, you can redirect it. This is the practice. It's not always easy, but it's always a choice. What are you consistently thinking about? What are you concentrating on? Direct it intentionally. Number 3, you align those things with truth. Replace the lies with what God actually says. Not just positive statements that you come up with, but actual truth about his character, about your identity in him, about what's possible. Scripture is not just spiritually powerful, it's also neurologically powerful. What you read, repeat, and meditate on rewires your brain. And number 4, act in alignment with that truth. Don't just think differently, but live differently. Change your environment if it's working against you. Move your body. Keep your commitments. Show up for your goals even when motivation is low. Because your actions sow the seeds, and those seeds always grow into something. All right? So in the beginning of this class, I influenced your thinking with one 30-second story. You pictured streets when there were none, and you filled in details that weren't there. Your brain did what it was built to do. It made assumptions, built a picture, and treated it as reality. Now think about the stories that you've been telling yourself for years. The ones you didn't choose consciously. The ones that got handed to you by a hard experience, or a careless comment, or a pattern you watched growing up. The stories running quietly in the background every single day, shaping what you expect, what you focus on, what you sow. Some of those stories are true and good and worth keeping. Can you pass this around? But some of them are the mental equivalent of picturing that neighborhood when you're actually on a baseball field. They're filling in gaps with assumptions that aren't serving you. And this is an important thing to notice. Whether those assumptions are actually true in some way or not, if they aren't serving you and who you are becoming, they need to go. Even if they're true assumptions, maybe you really are bad at math, but do you need to be assuming that? Do you need to be keeping that and holding that? Is that serving you? No. So that assumption needs to go. All right? You're not stuck, you're not limited, you're not defined by what your mind has been doing on autopilot. You are being shaped every single day by what you think. And the question is whether you are going to leave that on default or whether you're going to take hold of it and take control. So be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That is God's invitation to you. It's not a suggestion. If you read that whole passage, it's not, hey, if you guys feel like it, make sure you check out the word and try to see if transforming your mind will work for you. It's not a suggestion. And it's not a bonus feature only for advanced Christians. It's not saying, hey, once you get to a certain level of tithing and volunteer work and service in the ministry, then you make sure you transform your mind. No. It is God's invitation to every single one of his children. Every single one of you. So accept that invitation because he knows that you're worth it. All right? Keeping homework simple this week and keeping this lesson short, just in case I needed to go have morning sickness. Yay. Just 2 things. Just 2 things. I want you guys to keep using your planner. Hopefully you have been doing well on using your planner. Yay.
Yeah.
I see a couple of nods. I think that's bogus. That one's
Considering I
bogus.
went like this, the weird.
All right, remember that your daily and weekly actions are the sowing, okay? Don't stop sowing, all right?
I feel like there's an earthquake happening.
And number 2, at some point this week, I want you guys to pull out your goal map and look it over really close because we've got the final goal map lesson next week. I finally got our great big dry erase boards in. I'm gonna make them into the goal maps this week. Whew, they're huge. Hope you guys all have room to take home a giant whiteboard. Like,
I might have to carry it.
bigger, no, it's probably about this big.
Oh.
It's gonna be turned the other way. Okay,
When?
next week.
You know what? You can just leave mine at home.
Except we're gonna work on it a little in class.
Come on, why you always gotta ruin the fun?
All right, so basically I want it fresh on your
I'm
mind.
smart.
And if there's anything you've thought of lately that needs to be added or updated or even removed, make sure you do that. Number 3 is optional, but I'd love for you guys to sit with this question sometime this week and reflect on it in your journal. Okay, the question, and I will write it down, maybe.
Oh, wow, it's just complete silence whenever she's writing.
I wish it worked that way in my little kids class.
Thought you were about to say, I wish it worked that way at home.
I do. What is one area of my life where I need to change how I'm thinking? Not what I'm doing, but how I'm thinking. Write about it in your journal if you want, or just let it marinate and think about it.
Okay.
Either way, keep going, and I'll see you guys next week.